Good morning once again. You're welcome to the There's No 5 Minute Job videos. And we're joined by the queerists here today, Maura Devine and Mary Cleary. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Now, Maura, this is your bicycle, the remnants of your bicycle. So tell me what happened to your bike.
The chain. The chain came off the derailleur.
Right, so.
I was cycling.
Yeah.
I went into cycle. Oh, it came off anyway.
This here is called the derailleur or the rear derailleur on the bicycle. Okay, and you know the chain goes round, the gears shift in and out by this unit moving in and out. So the reason I say it is not a 5 minute job, because I spent a number of hours already making a mess of myself. I didn't know what to do, so I decided, when I looked at this, it looked like the whole thing was bent. So this thing here, as I say, was bent in there. And maybe if you just turn the pedals, the pedals here, please. Yeah, keep going round. Keep going round hard. Now, as you do that, so that's how the gears should work. Keep going, yeah. Now the problem is when you try and change the gears. So if you just try and change the gears, so how we change the gears down here at the moment is down here. So if you just, maybe it's in this one here, right? So if you switch that as you're pedaling, so just, yeah, and now you run the switch at the bottom, Mary.
You run the switch at the
No,
bottom.
Mary. All right, our two apprentices will do this. Keep going, that's it. The other way.
That way?
Yeah, keep going, that's it. Keep going. Now you can see. So what's beginning to happen is this thing is beginning to mangle up. And actually what happened then, as this went forward like this, it's all, you can see this is twisted. What happened was this thing got caught in the spokes and just completely twisted. So at this stage, I can see now you can see that it's completely bent, all right? So I made the mistake of assuming that I could probably straighten that in some way. Anyway, that didn't work. So I looked this up online. I see it's called the Shimano Tourney TX. I looked it up online, and I just ordered in a spare part from Amazon. So we're going to have a look at what is involved here. So apart from the fact there's no 5 minute jobs, it took a lot more than 5 minutes to set this up. So we're going to look here at what we have to, there's the spare part. So that's how it came. Just hold on a minute, yeah. And that's what it looks like. Okay, so just take the box away, please. That's it. So these are the tools we're going to use. I'm going to use this tool here. That's going to be to release the gear cable. I've got these Allen keys here. There's two sets of. I'll need an Allen key for this screw, and I'll show you for one in there. So the things we're going to look at here now. Firstly, I need to get the chain. So if I look at the chain, when I was looking at this first, I keep thinking, how do I get the chain off this? Because these wheels are in the middle of the chain. So do I have to break the chain or otherwise? So I've discovered through experimentation that what I'm going to do is I'm going to release that screw there, which has got a little Allen key in it. When that releases, I'll be able to move the inside leaf forward and slip the chain off this end. And because of the position of the lower gear wheel, that's outside of the arc of the chain, so the chain will come loose. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to release this. Now, no nut here. Now I found out this nut is a 9mm nut, so I had a bit of a problem getting a spanner for that. But I'm using a bicycle spanner to get that off. I'll have to cut this. I'll have to cut this wire off here. This bit here, just at the end. I'll have to snip that element off here, so that the wire can get back out, and then release that. And then the last item I'll do is this part here, just release that, and then this whole thing will be released, and I'll replace it with the other part. Okay, so here's the new part. I say that nut, we're going to have to take that screw, replace it. We're going to be taking that screw off. But essentially what we're doing is we're mapping this one here directly onto that. We take this part out, we replace it with this. we'll have to run this wire into this section here. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to take the chain off the front there. If you see what I've done here, I've taken the chain off the front. And that's slacking this off here. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to release this screw here. So I get my Allen key in. I just release this. I thought I'd try and be real tidy with wearing gloves, etc., but I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll be able to keep my hands clean. Anyway, pull this screw out here, and then the wheel will come out. Just slip the wheel out. Just put that down there. I'll just leave that there for the moment. Now, what I'm hoping will happen is if I move this guy forward, move that forward like that. Just come in there to me a little on the top. So I've released the chain off this. Okay. So the next thing is I'm going to have to release this. This is the wire which, when you operate the gears, this tightens and loosens and pulls this block in and out. What you're going to have to do is cut off this little section here, because that's that won't come back out through the hole here unless I do that. So I have to cut that off. That's good. And then I have to release. So this is a 9mm hole here. I just release that. Not. You can see the function of that little piece I took off is to keep the stray ends from going around the place, but so we'll have to find a way of solving that problem afterwards. So I'll just take that out there, and how do I? Not having done this before, this should come out here somewhere. It just pulls out. Okay, so that's released from that, and the last action now is we need to release this knot here. I just had pre-loosened it a little. It should be tighter than that. And so if you just look down here, you have, here's the old part and a new part. So essentially we're going to replace, if we can remember how to put these things around. So okay, so the first thing is that goes in like that. Okay, we need to tighten it. Tightness. So again, I had to go off and pre-select the size of Allen keys that would do the job. And that's probably the best piece of advice, is to make sure you get the correct choice of Allen keys sorted out beforehand. And so there's a little end stop. If you just come in there with the camera, there's a little end stop in here. So come around this side. There seems to be a little an end stop. So how to get that in there? I'm going to have to just feel this in correctly first, and just see. Now, yeah, so I think I just need to tighten this in. It appears to me that that's correctly in. Now I can finally tighten these things up later. And I'm going to be trying to get the chain back on that now. So I think what I'll do is probably try and get the chain back on, and then I'll be putting the gear in there and then in through here. So the problem I'm going to have to concern myself is about these loose ends like that hanging around. Okay, so again, what I've got to try and do is get the chain back behind this wheel here. So The chain will go up against that one, and it has to get in behind this here. So in order to do it, that's why I need to release this nut here. Take that wheel out, slip the chain in, and put the wheel in behind it. So that's what we're going to try and do next. Okay, so we're going to release the screw on this one and take this wheel out. That's the first thing we're going to do. The bit to remember here is that when I do this, all the bits seem to come out. I'll have to make sure I put them back in the right orientation. So the wheel has come out. No, it's okay. Right now, I've been trying to work out how to do this. So you get that round the first wheel. Now I've got to get that past this. So in order to do that, this gap here isn't big enough. So I'm just going to squeeze them out a little to get the chain in past that. Now I don't think there's a bit of give in it, so it's not going to deform the metal, although it's soft metal. So it's in there, it's in past that now, and I have to replace the wheel. Let's see when yeah. So, whoops. So the wheel has to go in here now. So I try and slide this wheel in. The bit I'm having a problem with is the fact that those little washers, they want to fall off. So this hasn't exactly been a one-man job here, and I have to try and make sure that the teeth, I keep thinking this should be some way easier, but it's not. I need the teeth to catch onto the wheel. I think this is how they remove people's hearts and all that sort of stuff. They just fumble along in the bodies with blood pouring everywhere. And, damn it. So that washer's fallen out again. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I could have put it around the wheel, put the chain around the gear first. So that was actually a bit clever, I think. That wasn't very clever. This is the part of the video that's we didn't get the stunt double to do this. Just give me the knot there, not more. So it's we need a whole team, a medical team here to do this job. We'll be moving on here. The next video will be lung transplants. Okay? I'm trying to get the nut to go through the hole here without being able to see what the hole is. So, just, it might help if I have this thing lined up correctly. So I could see it taken up here now. And this reminds me of ER, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like
George Clooney, Eat Your Heart Out.
this is actually a Laurel and Hardy movie.
There you are. So the question is, will this look remotely like what it started? Now, I'd like to put this chain back on here a moment. See if anything looks like it should look. No. Okay, so there's... Right, so
seems to be.
Don't listen, you'll hear a noise there, but that's just the spoke yard wandering all over the place. That's a different issue. So we've managed to get it on. Now the next thing we have to do is try and get these wires back in here so that the gears can operate. So we'll look at that for a moment. I think we'll probably just hand tighten these here a moment. I think everything else looks on alright. So if you just look at the side of it here, just come around the side. So the chain is operational. So essentially when you're cycling and you move into different gears, essentially while the chain length remains the same, this thing here must adjust to keep the tension to keep the tension constant. Alright. So this wire here, as I tighten and loosen it here, you'll see, if you just look there, you'll see it's, then this tightens there. So we have to slip this through this section here. We have to slip it through here and out here. So we just want to investigate how to stop this loose wire from causing a problem, this piece of wire. Okay. So, how best to solve this problem? So I've got a major problem threading this needle. I'm trying to slide that in through this guy here. Having major problems. I know it'll go through because I use a small little Allen key and I can just force that. I can get goes through easily. So after trial and error, I actually realized this whole thing comes off here. So that actually comes out separately. So I'll be able to slide it through that and then hopefully, oh that works, okay. So that was the trick there, I had to have that off. Slide it through the first section and slide it through this little section here. And then I have to get this back on. So that's a spring, it's a spring supported or little screw, so that slides in there. Now this is just the reason, I think this is for final adjustment, and then this guy will sit in there. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is sort this fella out. We need another Allen key. Now I've lost my plot, which is the Allen key. It's the same one as down below. Okay, so I need to release that. Just go down the floor angle like that there. So. I need to slide this wire here. There's a little slot under a washer in this. I need to slot it into this section and then tighten it down. So I'll use the Allen key then to tighten this up. So it's slipped it. Just need to loosen it up again.
I'm making us bad. Is it?
Let's see.
It's in the channel here now, so oh my God. I just have to feel it into the channel. I presume after 100 heart operations, the surgeons become quite adept at this. So that's just a temporary fix at the moment. So the idea is, as I change gears, I've just moved just in towards the front here. As I change gears here in the front,
But no, hang on.
I'm trying to do something. So of course the next thing is I have to put this back in here. Okay. So if I have to create something again, switch to create the strain. That doesn't look very good because I have a very loose wire here. Now why did that happen in this case? question is why is that so loose? This obviously shouldn't be loose. See this here? So why is that happening? So I just want to look at the previous one and see why I seem to have so much slack here. Maybe that section was a little longer. So perhaps I'm going to just have to, what I'll try and do is I'll just try and release this and pull more cable through until I take up that slack. So you can see here the slack over here, the slack. See, I'm just taking up that slack. Let's go back in again to this slot. See, there is a difference between the two items. They're not exactly the same. So if there is an extra length involved here, that's sort of understandable. I just have to, so if I hold that in position, try and hold it in the slot and tighten it. So I think there's going to be some adjustments to be done at this point in time. So as I'm moving the gears here, what you should be able to see is just come over on this side. I want to see this moving in and out. Right, so if we just look at this, as I shift gears, yeah, you can see that whole bar moving over and back.
I can.
That's what I want to look at, okay? So as I shift gears, right, so what I want to look at here is I'm now shifting the gears from the 6th gear right up. It's moving in right up to the end, and if you look in here, you'll see it's not managing to get onto the top gear here at all, even though it's at its limit. So that's one of the problems I have. The second one is when I come in the opposite direction, it won't go down onto the lowest gear. So there's a problem there. And I've identified the problem here, right, as this end stop here. And what we'll see is that screw is tightened up against that block. So for example, when I move up here, you'll notice that there's a gap here, right? So as he's moving up the gears, as I move down the gears, the gap closes. And at its lowest, if you look over here, you'll see I have slack here. Just move the camera.
Yeah.
I have slack here in this gear, but the slack is not helping me here because of the limitation of this. So I'm going to loosen this screw here. I wish I could see it now, but I'll loosen it back. And you can see that's now this time, hopefully it will come back onto the bottom wheel. So, not yet. I need to loosen it somewhat further. So these end stops have to be adjusted for the gear. Okay, so off camera there, I've been trying to work out how this whole thing works. I was having a problem getting onto the top gear and getting onto the lower gear. So the problem getting onto the lower gear had to do with this particular screw. So if you just look at this, so when I go down to my lowest gear, and I'll just keep my screwdriver in here in this gap. You see there's a gap here. So you need to come around here so you can see this screw here. So that gap there, so that screw is up against an end stop, and that stops how far forward or outward this gear will move. If I release this, if this comes out too far, then the chain will then jump off the gear down here. So that's one of, so there's a limit how far in I want it to go and how far out. Now at the moment this sets out the outer limit, and I'm happy with that, so I'm going to change the gears up and down a little just to see that they're moving in between gears fine, everything's fine, and I've got it right up to the top gear as well. So you can see I was having a problem with that before. So the reason for that had to do with the length of this. So I had to loosen this screw. Now remember, the construction in the last one was kind of different. You can see that there. That's a much shorter section than this wheel, etc. So this was different. That's why I have more wire hanging out here. So essentially what I had to do was I had to extend this up and I had to loosen this screw. I had to pull this cable as tight as I could with this screw. So this is basically a screw wound all the way in. And then I tightened this up, and then the way in which I got that extra tension on the wire was by releasing this screw. So for example, if I push that screw all the way in again, I'll just show you where I had the problem. So if I tighten that all the way in, you will see that I now can't get the gear up into first gear. So I call first gear the one with the most teeth. So I can't get it up there. Even though this is at its limit, it won't go, because there isn't enough tension on the cable. So the way I increase the tension would be to screw this back here. And because I had it right up tight, I've got plenty of play. I've got like maybe 15 mil of play. So I just keep going around. So now you can see I've managed to get it up there now. Okay. So I just check that that's. So I have the whole range from one end to the other. Now the other thing I want to ensure is that when I have it there, that this won't go in too far, because if it does, then again the chain will foul the spokes. And in fact, maybe that's what happened in the past with this spoke protector. I'm not sure. So this is what this other screw is for. So if you just look at this other screw, so there's two screws. This screw creates an end stop for how far out the gear can come, and this screw creates an end stop for how far in it will go. So I basically adjusted that screw so when in here it's up against an end stop. Now at the moment, so I'm in first gear. So I think what I'm just going to do is run it up and down the gears a few times. That was a 5-minute video. You can see how long the video takes. So before, so now we're going to get some feedback from the producers and the audience. Maura, are you much better informed than any the wiser result of that?
I am. I think I could do it myself.
Yeah. So the whole idea, of this, of making these videos, I mean, I've had racing bikes or these type of bikes before, and I've been forced. I've never had a problem like this. We don't know where the problem happened originally, but I thought that I could just bend all this, because it's all soft metal, and it would come back out, and I just made a mess of it. And in reality, at the cost of maybe £20 sterling or something, I was able to buy this part. All of the elements I was able to replace. Now, it's a bit of learning, but the purpose of these videos is the idea of an RLO, a reusable learning object. And you know, obviously, if you do these, you get better each time. The person holding the camera doesn't necessarily know what I'm trying to do with it at the time, so it maybe becomes a bit difficult. So there's one last thing I want to do, and that was top off. More asked me about this cable. So what should I do with this, like this piece of cable hanging around here? Yeah, the wee ferrule. So we have a little, is that ferrule there? So let me, oh, that was the original one. So let me just see.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's the original one.
No, I won't do it.
So,
Oh, still if it's extra now.
yeah, but I have a little electrical ferrule here. Okay, so I can try and put that on it. I'm just not sure. The problem here is there's an extra lot of piece of wire hanging out here that wasn't with the last one. But if this needed to be replaced again and it required a longer wire, and if I cut this, would that be a good idea?
No.
So that's an existentially philosophical question, Maura. What do you think we should do?
Leave it.
Leave it. The problem with that is it's hanging around the place.
Yeah,
so
but can you fold
what
it
I
or
do is,
something?
yeah, I think we'll fold it. We'll put an end on it. We'll stick this. We're gonna put this end on it. We'll crimp it, and then we'll maybe tie it in a bit of a knot.
Yeah.
Electrical ferrule. I'm just gonna stick that in here. Right. Just release it just at that end there, and I'll just get a crimping tool and crimp that. So I at least there'll be no loose bits of wire hanging around afterwards. And then we have that, so that's good. And then what we do, we just tie it in a knot. And the reason I'm leaving this tail hanging there is just when I ordered these, and I ordered it through there was a section called Tourneo TX, and I just bought. I'll put a link in the video to where I got it on Amazon if this of any help to anybody. And we just want to make sure that that's not going to stick out and catch anything. So let me just do all the adjustments again. This video, under the term there are no 5-minute jobs, I suppose in doing this, one of the things that I'm interested in is the idea of if I learn something along the way. Now, when I looked at this bike originally and the problem, I had never seen that sort of problem before. I mean, I've had racing bikes or whatever before, not as race, just ordinary riding around. And I've never had to deal with a twisted derailleur before, or to get into that detail. So I was coming at this from scratch position. I used YouTube to look on YouTube to look at some videos, see if I could learn something about it. And then I decided to look at with Maura, who owns a bike in Murray. I said, let's try and do this so we all learn something together. And the idea of creating a video then is adding to the stock of the possibility for other people being able to learn from that, from what I'm trying to do, maybe find better ways, add to them, comment on them, share them around with other people. But I'm fascinated by the idea of YouTube as an incredible learning resource. And I suppose my interest is in trying to see how I could use the camera. It's very difficult. I have my idea in my head about what I'm trying to capture on video, and of course that's changing all the time because I'm doing it all in real time. I'm trying to translate that to the person who's holding the camera, in this case Mary, and hope that they will understand it, trying to get the camera angles right, the lighting, etc. Now, I could have just set up a fixed, position like that there, looked at the bike and done it from a distance, etc. But I wanted to zoom in and out and get the angles right and have a look at that. But also, I think then, like from Maura's point of view, I have a belief that if you look at how the bike works, it gives you a better appreciation of, we were just talking about what does change in the gears, what's the best gear to have, etc. And I just have a view, if you have a look at these things happening, it gives you a better understanding of them. But the other thing is that as a way of passing your time, or how I've all these bits and pieces that I can operate with, and there's endless bits and pieces of jobs you can always be doing. Would you be making a living out of it? Of course I wouldn't. I mean, the first time you do anything like this, you break half the things, but you learn a lot. So, for example, I hadn't known about a chain whip. I hadn't known about a chain whip before. So that's something else that I learned about. But also I have a sense that in my involvement with men's sheds, that this is the sort of activity that could take place in a men's shed. So if in my local men's shed in Skibble, Navarre and Guidor, we had, say, a set of tools around bicycles, like the chain whips and all those bits and pieces of tools, which I would only use once in a blue moon. And if anybody, any of the members or somebody in our community had a problem like that we could all help out with, have a cup of tea, a bit of chat, and share our insights and knowledge and work collaboratively to do that, then the stock of all our learning would improve. And if my vision would be, let's say within men's sheds, if you ended up with a whole collection of these type of DIY or problem solving videos, with the idea of it being reusable learning objects, by which I mean that you can scrub back along the timeline and look at the particular aspects that you're not sure of, look at it again and again until you're sure of what it's at. that'd be a fabulous shared learning resource within men's sheds, for example, right throughout the world. So that's the thinking behind doing this type of video. Initially, when I was asked to fix the bike, I said, look, I'll try and fix it. And then I realised it certainly wasn't a 5-minute job. And I said, I'll forget how to do this, because the chance of me coming across this again in any reasonable length of time isn't very high. And certainly it's not run by a computer. I can actually see the bits and pieces. I mean, even though my background is as an electronics engineer, the fact that you can't see atoms, whether they exist or not, you can't see them. At least I can see the gears, and I can dirty my hands and turn a spanner or do something useful like that. So if this encourages anybody out there to do this type of thing, if you have comments and suggestions, please put them there. And, people should do these with the confidence of recognizing that if we're just adding value to the capacity for others to learn to have a go, to do things themselves. Like, we live very much in a throwaway society where, just if something's not half working, you just get rid of it. And often the problems, as in this case, I mean, the cost of the rear derailleur, I mean, this thing here, I mean, it cost something around £20 sterling, so maybe 24, 25 euro. It wasn't huge money to fix it. And, you don't have to feel useless. That's the other thing. And look, we're coming into the winter months. I would like to think maybe if this encouraged somebody to have a look at your local men's shed, wherever you are, and say, maybe go down there and see, could you become part of a learning community and get involved men and women joining together in a collaborative basis to learn how to do things. So again, it's another one of I certainly know, as a fellow says, in the railway they said, I'm now much better informed, but perhaps none the wiser. Thanks for watching.